We are live. Okay, committee, welcome. This is Senate. Yeah, you can. Sometimes we leave it open.
Do you want it open?
No, we can close it. It gets loud in the hall, especially with appropriations, because there's a lot of people hanging around out there waiting to be heard, and with the exit, but we can close it. Welcome. This is pretty much a new committee. I've got two returning people. Senator Chittenden, who has a job commitment. This is one he has every year and one he has to fulfill. And we do have lives outside of this building. So he will be back on Tuesday. He is returning. Senator Brock is returning. But I'm Ann Cummings. I'm your chair. I've been the chair in here for many years. I ran against a sitting pro tem and spent 4 years in the back hall. Two of them I got to move up and chair education, but I knew what I was doing. So, but I have been chair here, I think since 2004, 2006, other than that 4-year hiatus. Senator McDonald, during all that, was my vice chair and clerk. He was also my resident expert on dates like when I started, but also on Act 60. He was on the committee that drafted it, and he knew it chapter and verse and everything that had been done to it since its inception. I'm going to miss his expertise, but we will muddle through. I've tried to run a very democratic committee. I don't keep things really formal unless things start to get out of hand. I do have one rule, and that is we don't shoot the messenger. I had the experience of coming to this building when I was in government in Montpelier City and not being treated particularly respectfully, which meant that it was kind of toyed with and just, I was told my people didn't understand what they were voting for. I was told that I should have the right to vote in the Montpelier City Council, and they were going to give it to me, whether I wanted it or not. It was an intrigue. I was told we would move the state capital. So I've always gone by the rule, and it comes from a much deeper belief I have in democracy. It's the reason I'm here, that everybody has a right to their opinion. They have a right to express it as long as it's civilly expressed, and they have a right to be heard with respect. We listen. We take what they have to say in, and then that goes into part of our understanding as we continue to debate the issue. And it makes for a nice, smooth running committee. I was given, I think, the best advice I've ever been given my first day in city government, when the city manager after the first meeting called me in his office, and after telling me how I don't call the public works director over a pothole, I call him and he calls the chain of command. He said, "You're new to this. I've been at it quite a while. And you're going to hear some things that are going to sound pretty strange to you." He said, "But I've found out there's a grain of truth in everyone, and your job is going to be to hear that truth." I've always tried to do that, and I've found that it does work well. Even if that truth is we haven't provided enough mental health services for these people, but there is something. And I think last year it became obvious that a fair number of people had not heard the truth that was being spoken out there. And bad things happen when you lose contact with what your people are trying to tell you. So that is my one rule. And it goes for committee members. We treat everybody respectfully. There have been incidences reported to me last year where in other places they were not treated respectfully. This is my first 3-3 committee. We frequently had 4-2 committees in here before the numbers change. It's always been friendly and bipartisan. We deal in numbers, and numbers are numbers. They say what they say. We will differ over solutions, but we've always managed to do it collegially. Because it's 3-3, and because we are facing issues which are really survival right now. And we do need to get a handle on that property tax, or people are already being priced out of the housing market. People will get put out of their homes because they can't pay their taxes, and we have no place for them to go. And we have a crisis in healthcare costs. Once the new bills come out with a 20% increase, we will see our numbers in uninsured start to rise. And that gets into the vicious cycle we used to have, where that cost gets shifted on to everybody else, and the people that can pay, we just see more and more getting filtered out of there. So we have two big issues. They aren't particularly partisan issues. And we can't afford to devolve into partisan fighting. If we do, you all might as well go home early, because I will make the decisions if this devolves, because it's going to be a tie. And I won't bring any kind of a bill of any importance out on a 4-3. That means we haven't done our work. That means it will get rehashed on the floor. And bills that get written on the fly on the floor usually have some major problems when they get implemented. I try to get as close to a unanimous vote as I can. So everybody gets heard, everything gets hashed out. We will demonstrate sausage making at its finest. But in my memory, we have only had one bill sent back here as not ready for prime time. And that was a constituent service, and the senator whose constituent it was didn't get prepped. So it's my job to make sure that all the questions get asked, because you don't want to hit the floor and have somebody ask you a question and say, oh, well, we didn't even think about that. That sometimes can be a challenge when you've got the world watching you, because you do need to make sure you ask some questions that some people might not want asked, but they do need to be before we get there. So that's me. I have 4 kids. We lost a daughter 4 years ago to cancer. I have 6 grandsons. 4 of them are in Vermont schools. 2 are in Montreal. So I get firsthand experience with different systems. All boys, as we were talking about. And some of them will be, I'm trying to talk one of them into being king. Oh yeah, that'd be great. But so far, it's not quite cool when you're in 6th grade. So we'll see. But that's it.
We're a team. Laura Kulik, live in Burlington, and I have 2 kids, no grandkids. I have a cat who's home alone right now, who's probably hating my guts. And I was an educator for a long time. I taught mostly in Vermont, but I also taught overseas in Prague and the Czech Republic and in Germany and Wiesbaden. I was born in Japan, so I've lived in Montreal. I speak French, so fairly well traveled, but Vermont is home. And my other committee is Health and Welfare and Warning.
I'm also there.
That's right. We're together all day long. Ruth Hardy. Oh, sorry.
I am from the Addison district. I live in East Middlebury. I have, since we're doing the kids first, I guess, I have 3 kids, and 2 in college and 1 adulting. I have worked in various nonprofit organizations, including being the assistant budget director at Middlebury College. I started my career as a legislative staffer for the Wisconsin legislature. I worked for the Wisconsin Legislative Fiscal Bureau, which is their JFO. And I basically had Julia Richter's job as their education finance analyst. So I've done a lot of work in education finance. I also served as did Martine on, or does Martine on a school board. And I don't remember what else we were talking about, except for my morning committee. I'm in Scott all day. Here on natural resources in the morning.
And do you have any pets?
Do I have any pets? I have a dog and a bunch of chickens.
I'm Chris Mattos. I serve the Chittenden North District, Milton, Fairfax, Westford, a little part of Essex Town. I was in the House for 7 years. Last 4 years, I was on Ways and Means, 2 of which was Scott, or 4 of which was Scott, 4 of which was Scott. I live in Milton with my wife Carrie, and we have a 2-week-old boy and a 2-year-old boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, it's.
You and Senator Ron Hinsdale should have a lot in common.
We were just talking yesterday about them. Yeah. Yeah. Life's a little crazy,
My
but.
first 2 were Irish twins, so.
Oh wow, you know.
Yeah.
Are you getting some sleep?
I hope my wife isn't watching this for some reason, but I'm sleeping just fine.
Oh yeah.
Not many hours, but I'm sleeping okay. I tend to not hear any of the crying for some reason.
So that was.
But in my everyday life, professionally, I have a property management and excavation business, and I'm a realtor. So basically, everything residential real estate is what
That was a realtor.
I do. Oh, good.
I was retired. I retired.
Yeah.
Rahim.
Oh, very cool. So residential real estate, and I've grown up in Milton my whole life, so I've been there forever.
Senator Brock, you're just in time to tell us who you are.
And laid down the law, now we're introducing ourselves.
Randy knows the law. He's been in here a long time.
Oh, I think I know everybody here. So, I'm Randy Croft from Franklin County.
Pets and kids.
Pets and
Pets and
kids.
kids.
How many kids? How many pets? Grandkids too.
How many pets, how many kids? Granddaughters. I'm married. My wife is Andrea, who is an inventor, among other things. I've got 1 daughter who has been living in Florida as a realtor and done a number of other things. Is back though in Vermont, and she's doing remote work among other things. And stepson, who is an actor, and he always plays gangsters or cops. And you probably see him on a variety of TV shows as well as a few movies.
Wow.
That's cool.
See, that's something I learned new. I didn't know that.
No, yeah. He's played a number of gangster roles, and typically does it very well. He's very scary, but very nice otherwise.
Scary and nice.
And for those of you who probably know that I was in the financial services industry for a long time. I was an executive with Fidelity Investments, although I'm based in Boston. For most of my career there, I lived in Vermont in the same house that I'm living in right now. All of that time, I used to commute by air every day for about 15 years, except for the 2 years I spent overseas. And I was based in the UK, and I traveled all over the world. In the same way that I went back and forth to Boston, because people would, you arrive in Taiwan or Hong Kong, and people would say, "Why did you only staying a day?" And the answer was, "Well, if I had to go to Wellesley, I wouldn't stay 2 weeks, would I?" So I got, as a result, I have 4.5 million miles on Delta, 1.5 million on American, and so on and so forth.
Are you gonna use those?
Well, I've used a lot of the miles, but what it does is it gets you first class forever and those kinds of things.
Very nice.
Once you've done that, you're spoiled.
And you don't want to go anyplace.
Yeah.
Okay, Scott Peck, I'm from St. Johnsbury. And I was in a military family and was in the military myself. So as I tell people, I've been a resident of St. Johnsbury my entire life, but I traveled a lot the first 30 years and been to every state, lived in many, went to school, and then I traveled all over the world. Returned in '99 to St. Johnsbury with my wife. And we have 6 children, 3 boys, 3 girls, 4 are out of school. I have a banker, 2 educators, and an engineer. And then I have 1 at UVM and 1 at Vermont State. Since I got out of the military, I've been an educator for 25 years, math and science. And my wife and I, we own the bookstore in St. Johnsbury, and she runs that. That's her thing. But so we've been business owners for 20 years. We live in town. And I have, God, how many dogs do I have? It depends on which kids are in the house on which weekend, but there are 2 that are definitely mine, but then upwards of 5, depending on who's home for whatever. So, yeah. And, yeah, Chris, I was over in the house for 10 years, 4 in education, 6 on Ways and Means. And, yeah, so that's sweet.
One of my daughters is a vet tech, and she was practicing her whole life in
Yeah.
our house. I drew the line at a pig. So no pigs. Okay, we will let Senator Chittenden
Yeah, because it's
talk to us. Next week, if we get where we're going, Tuesday, maybe a short day. I'm going to see if Julia can come do a status report on the Ed Fund, meaning what dollars are in there now. We use 70 million in one-time dollars to buy down the property tax rate from 18 to 13 last year. And it is my understanding that unanticipated revenue has come in, so we may not have to start filling a $70 million hole,
Yeah.
which would be nice, but we need to verify that.
Any idea of how much unanticipated revenue?
No. But we aren't starting in a big hole. We did not get as much revenue we did a cloud tax. The House has done it, I think, 4 times, at least 3. This committee has never really taken it up. It did go through last year in order to raise the money to buy down the tax rate. We thought we'd make about 37 million, we made about 30, I think. And that got done quickly, and I think we need to get an update on that and find out what we actually did. It's a hugely complicated, as anything with technology, computers talking to computers, and at what point do you tax it? but we reached the point where half the states have done that. When we started, we were like 2 or 3, so we're in good company with that now. We won't know, next week after, next week. Are we getting a briefing from Tom Cabet
That's the following.
the following week?
Keyboard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for the, you will be coming in, they will set, the 2 economists will set the revenue forecast. Everybody that's been here knows, and that's how across the hall will build their budget. Looking at the revenue numbers monthly. There's no big windfall coming in. We're.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're about where we were. Ed fund has been breaking even to a little down. We don't have the monies in, and we don't have any money this year to put into the reserves. So we did top them up. Next week, other than, I'd like to also talk about, I'm gonna give you the report. Or just the sheet, the finance committee of the commission, subcommittee of the commission on the future of education. Did a brainstorming and just threw every idea they could for getting property taxes, their schools or anything under control. That's basically what the commission has sent us. But I'd like to have us have some time to talk about what our goals are for this year. You know, make sure if anybody has any other thoughts about directions we might go in to look at. And get our thoughts out on the table. I know Sandra Brock has been giving some of you books. I have one copy, but it was given to me as a member of the VSAC board, and it was on board function as leadership. And in a lot of ways, it's applicable to us. And it really talks about trying to move into generative, which is thought creative kind of mode. And it was the most interesting board retreat I've done with VSAC. And I've been there since I hit this committee, so I've been there a long time. And I would like to give this committee time to think kind of just outside the numbers box, you know, what do we want to accomplish? And I'm thinking right now in the property tax, school, education. The rest of next week, as far as I know, we were given a list from the administration, and I have a copy. But we're basically going to start with an overview of state, regional education trends related to performance, enrollment, expenditure, staffing, special education. That's the first day. Description of the evolution of Vermont's education funding system in response to Brigham and how it compares to other states and how other states finance. And then finally, deeper dive into the pros and cons of our funding system. That is mostly the Department of Education. And I got a several of us leadership basically got a briefing this afternoon on the outlines of what the governor's proposal will be in his address, his budget address, which is the 26th. Is it, Randy?
Somewhere.
Somewhere along there.
Maybe the 28th.
28th.
Yeah.
It's Thursday.
Somewhere in that
Yeah.
week. So we're all sworn to silence until then. But this will give us background, and also as we crunch the numbers, we're going to be working very closely with education, because no matter what we do to the funding mechanisms, unless we can find a way to get, or they can find a way to get costs under control, we're probably just looking at a temporary fix for a year or two. So we're going to be working closely with them. Right now, two, since we don't have any bills to work from, the two I know positions that are out there is the foundation formula. I asked, they have not scheduled another meeting with us. Julia was talking about future meetings. But I will have us do a deeper dive into the foundation formula. We got a good part of Brigham, and I have John on my list to ask in. But, probably a more formative and just kind of consolidating what we do hear about other states. It's 48 of them do at least some form, but the form varies widely. And then income base. That's the other one. I'm sure there's going to be a bill. The NEA has announced that they have been asking candidates to pledge to do away with the property tax. There was a summer study committee met in the fall, but it was there. I think
12 meetings, I think.
Yeah.
Quite lengthy.
it was lengthy and it was intense.
Are we gonna have a chance to review the 38 other studies that were done before this one?
No. Well, you can personally, and I'll see if I can find them. I got 6 reports in 2 days, and I haven't gotten through all of them. And that was just the tax kinds of things that came here. There's apparently equal or greater number that have come into health and welfare that I haven't even gotten yet. I'm trying to find those reports and I'll get them posted on our website so that anyone can read them. There is one on, we asked the tax department to be more granular in the non-homestead, it's homestead and everything else.
That's in that appraisal report.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's also, the appraisal report, towns are having a hard time getting appraisers. Because they're too small to make it worth their while. But I've already been told in one of my local towns, there is a concern about you're giving up control of your grand list if you go to a more regional appraisal thing. But if you don't reappraise regularly, then your CLA gets nailed. But if we come out of here and there's no CLA, then it might not be the issue it is now. But on the income base, what we ended up producing was, if you want to do an income base ed funding, this is what it would look like. But when we looked at Julia's, I think there were hundreds of graphs and regraphs. And when you looked at them, it was nowhere near as simple as it sounded. Just everybody pays based on their income, but everybody is not the same. You have some pretty low income people who bought a home 50 years ago and it's now a pretty high value home. Or they live in something that has become a resort area, but there's no downsizing available to them. Last year, we probably should have looked at the home values. If we don't change the system this year, we probably should look at the home values in the system and the incomes in the system, but we will see where that goes. But we'll start getting, I'm going to invite the NEA to come in and give us their proposal, and maybe the Public Assets Institute, since they've both been out there. Or anyone else that has a proposal. And I will have Julia go through, or John, whoever's, I think Kirby drafted the bill, but John is drafting Kirby's still doing taxes and John's doing the ed fund. So how that's, and then Julia's got, is it Zach?
That's right.
Ezra.
Yeah.
Ezra
Some
is,
help this year.
yeah, and he is going to be doing cost drivers in education. And she's going to be doing the ed fund dollars and cents. we will get one on cost drivers, but, that is as far as I've gotten. Anybody else that wants something thrown in, let me know.
I was just gonna say, I was on the school construction, working group all summer, so if you ever want like an update on that, I'm happy
That's-
to provide it.
That's one,
That
yes.
might be relevant to,
You have
It's going to be relevant in that if we come out of this with any form of consolidation recommendation, or if we don't, we've got schools who are really in bad shape.
Yeah.
And we need to put some money into them. And if we do, we're gonna have to come up with some help for towns. It's been told to me, we were at the Montpelier School Board, that they've merged with Roxbury to get their budget passed last year. It has gone well. They had room to move those kids in. I think it's like 6 kids a grade. So they have had room. They didn't have, so they absorbed the teachers, things were good. And they are doing after-school programs in the Roxbury School for this year. Roxbury has to decide if they want to accept the school as the town. One of the inhibiting things is that this very small town would have to accept the maintenance cost of that building. And so the thought is we might do some maintenance costs. I think we probably all have a number of small schools that could consolidate, but none of them are big enough
to absorb.
yeah, the other ones. So I have told leadership for at least 2 years that we are going to need something to put on the table.
The AOE's done a lot of work on that, so it'll be interesting to hear what they come up with. They've spent a lot of time and effort. And one other thing I wanted to say is I took UVM up on research. And they did this nice, because I was curious about funding formulas for other states in New England, and they put together this really lovely little package of each New England state, which is, they're all some version of a foundation formula, but it's actually kind of interesting, and there's nice footnotes and everything. If you want me to share it with you.
Oh, yeah, and I think,
share it, if you share with me.
yeah,
We put it on the website.
put it on the
and,
website,
So we can all look at
put
it.
it up there,
Great.
as long as they don't have any non-disclosure.
No, I think it's all good, yeah.
And, yeah, and then we can read that. I'm
Yeah, it's
getting,
interesting.
they're knocking out studies. I'm trying to get the state of education study. We're gonna be going over that next week. I'll get that posted. They get posted on the team's agenda, so I have to go find the agenda item, get back into the teams, download all the meeting, stuff. I could not find it on the Department of Ed website. Maybe you can. But, or on the commission website. But we will get, there's that one, there's the Listen and Learn tour. We will be hearing about those. And so there's going to be a lot of information to just absorb.
We got that.
Okay,
Yeah. We can do it.
so we will adjourn.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Do we need to elect a clerk or is that not
Oh,
something that?
no, well, let's wait till, I think vice chair is named. Yes, we probably do need to elect a
Well, the
clerk.
usual person that you elect a clerk is one who isn't here, but I don't think you can have the vice chair.
Well, Mike McDonald was the clerk forever, right?
McDonald and the vice chair,
Anyways,
but there was a trade-off on that.
okay.
He didn't chair anything. No, I'm not missing the paper spillage on to my desk, but it is.
Back in the cartoons,
Yeah, I do miss the cartoons.
the former vice chair was very prolific with his cartoons for the committee.
And they were good. Sometimes it took a while to understand them. When I looked at them and I understood them, I got scared. But, yeah, he posted a sinking ship of state cartoon on the door of appropriations one year. But he was good in his political cartoons. Are there any volunteers? I'll let you do that. We'll do that on Tuesday.
Okay.
You can all think about who you'd like to nominate. Basically, you probably all know, all the clerk does is you fill out the sheet when we take a vote. I don't do a lot of roll call votes. I don't do a roll call for every vote unless it's close. If it's just basic business, I do voice votes. No, we call the number. So it isn't a lot of work, but think about that. And
Christmas.
otherwise, it usually goes to the low person on the totem.
Madam Chair, I think, maybe Senator Matos is happy.
Yeah.
That's the most junior.
He has really good handwriting.
I have.
It's that.
I make the motion.
My penmanship's terrible, just FYI.
All you have to do is make X's or write 10 and 3.
Might not be legal. No, I'm fine, Joe.
Okay. So we have a motion to appoint Representative
No,
Matos.
Senator.
Senator Matos. That's right. Takes me a while. Break old habits.
Would you like a second? On that
Yes.
motion? I'll second that.
Okay, we have a second by Senator Hardy. Is there further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. I'm reading that as 601.
You're in.
You're
like
in.
Flynn.
Now we can get a
Thank you.
sign.
Yeah.
Go up in the wall.
All right.
I've made it 7 years not being a clerk, so.
Really?
It's time.
Yeah,
It's time.
Yeah, I never got.
Did you
I
do,
never got it.
did you do the canvassing committee this year?
Oh,
I got that,
Yeah,
Yeah, I got that.
that was but I had, my first year, we had a contested seating of a senator.
Oh,
It had been a recount.
Oh, wow.
And since I'd been mayor and done elections, I ended up on that committee. So it was a little challenging.
I was involved in the Duke Wardinski fiasco 6 years ago. But I figured they'd never ask me back after that, but they did.
Well, I don't know what that is, but we can save it for another day. I am interested.
All right.
Okay, have Steve.
Great.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Whether it's
Have a good
better than
weekend.
last night.
Trumpet will thank you.
And we will see you all on.
Trumpet is the cat? Yeah. Okay, trumpet is the cat. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
See you Tuesday.
Charlotte, do you want these?
You can just leave them.
No.
Right there.
We tend to get so much stuff on this table. But I don't know if Senator Chibney was going to feed up this year or not. He did the first year, the last year. But he kept it full of Mary.
Yeah. No way. Scott, you got your hair back.
Yes, yeah.
I'll send you that.
Oh, we're still live, by the way.
Oh, we are still
I
live.
know.
We need to go
Sorry.
live.
I'm trying to figure out.
We can push.
All right, get out of here.
Yeah, I gotta go to baby before I take it.
Bye, thank
Yeah.
you. Have a nice weekend.
Bye.
All right, get some good weekend.
You babies, cats.
Yeah, have a good weekend.
Yeah, just go ahead.
I shall. Me and the cat. We're gonna get some rest.
We are still live.
Yeah.
All right, good night.
See you Saturday?
Yeah, I'll be there.
I think there's something about drawers.
I wasn't invited. Just get
No,
one.
no.
What's happening on Saturday?
You don't use a file, right, Randy?
What's that?
You don't use a file.
We got my
So Rocky
Encourages
did,
you to keep things.
yeah, and McCormick did, I forgot to ask about drawers. I'll do that on Tuesday, but nobody asked me about them either. Because 2 of them left, but now we've got the printer where you can actually see it and turn it on. Remember before it was way up
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
and you couldn't